Next time on a very spooky fine dining podcast, the season 1 finale, TGI Fridays the 13th. Oh, you betcha, pineapple's gonna hit the fan as Michael's son Juicy, or in this episode, Juice son Voorhees, goes on a murderous rampage, and no one is safe. It gets real spooky, it gets real bloody, and not everyone's gonna make it to the end of the episode. Who will live, who will die? Listen to Fine Dining, the search for the most mediocre restaurant in America, break down a trip to TGI Fridays based on the atmosphere, the service, and the food, and try not to be scared to death. Hear the thrilling finale of Fine Dining, Wednesday, October 25th, wherever you get your podcasts.
There's a new elite ruling Britain, and they're easy to spot. They're anyone not currently listening to this podcast. I'm Harriet Langley-Swindon, and this is Non-Censored. Hello and welcome to Non-Censored, the podcast that wraps up all the best bits from my very real daily radio show into one easy-to-digest highlights package. Martin, my regular producer, was away again this week, so obviously I've put him on a written final warning. I'm sorry, but I had to take my sunstroke-daughter, I didn't check which, to hospital. Doesn't wash. Booper exists, Martin. And also it was fine, so what were you worried about? Anyway, I'm delighted to say that I found a replacement myself this week. I've enjoyed her social media presence for a while, and I heard she was looking for some media experience, so I thought, let's give her a shot. Welcome to Non-Censored, Sophia Cormorant.
Thank you for having me on, Harriet.
You're welcome.
Because as a working class woman from the north of England, it's very hard for me to get opportunities like this because of the anti-white, anti-northern racism of the British liberal media.
Yes, very good.
You weren't expecting that, were you? You weren't expecting me to say that. Shocked you, haven't I? Because I don't have the opinions you expect me to have.
Well, mainly because I was expecting you to summarise what was in the show and lead into the first item.
Not performing monkey.
No one has accused you of performing, Sophia. Anyway, let's crack on. Our first item is about the deselection of Jeremy Corbyn as MP for Islington North, and we spoke to Labour MP Jasper Bangles about why they had to do it. Jasper Bangles, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Harriet. How are you?
I am absolutely wonderful, and I'm joined with Sophia, of course, to talk to you today. Now, Jasper, we wanted to talk to you about Jeremy Corbyn, because Jeremy Corbyn, of course, has been banned from standing as candidate for the Labour Party. And we just want to know what is going on.
Well, I think this is a very exciting time for the Labour Party. We've got rid of the only issue, really, that we've had in the party. And now we've sort of dropped that bit of ballast. The Labour air balloon can fly unencumbered from now on. So it's very exciting.
Oh, I like the hot air balloon analogy. Absolutely wonderful. Do you think, though, that Jeremy Corbyn has a lot of supporters in the party, doesn't he? Presumably they're going to be very angry. Won't that be a problem?
Well, I think they could probably see that it was time to get rid of Jeremy. This was definitely the time, and the reasons we've given for getting rid of him are that we need to get rid of him, and I think we stand by that. And obviously Jeremy brought a lot of young people to the party, young supporters, but those people are all probably about 30 now and have become jaded. So I think what we need is to stick to the middle and the stuff we know.
What do you say to, Jeremy Corbyn? He's not very happy about this at all. Have you talked to Jeremy? What's going on there?
Very rarely happy about anything. I haven't personally spoken to Jeremy. Obviously, we're thankful for him standing in that position for too long, I would say. But he did some good, I suppose. But mostly he broke the party apart and made us into factions. And I think now he's gone, the factions will come back together. He will be sort of the unifying, sort of soft, wet blanket. Keir will be that on top of the party and keep us all warm and safe.
I guess because Keir Starmer doesn't really have a nickname, does he, really? And maybe is it Keir Wet Blanket Starmer? Is that what you call him in the corridors?
Well, when you say it back to me, that doesn't sound as complimentary as I thought my analogy was. But yeah, Keir blanket maybe, but that would be a stretch.
Yeah. And blanket is something you want round you, and I'm not sure no one really wants a Keir Starmer on them, do they?
Well, I like it when he's around a lot more than when Corbyn's around. So that is something to be taken into account, I would say.
Yeah, it's funny because I mean, me and Sophia, we're both on the right, aren't we? And
Yeah.
I think we just look at the Labour Party and we think, what are they doing? They're just all this sort of infighting, because we don't do that on the right.
No, we don't. And what I really like about the fact that Keir Starmer's got rid of Jeremy Corbyn right now is it's really good, because people always said, like, oh, the left will always vote for Labour. And I hate that, because I just want to keep the North, like, just looking a bit more like me, you know?
Right.
That probably really surprised a lot of people, that I would think that I would want everyone to mainly look like me. And I just think Keir Starmer is a bit more dedicated to that. But also, I'd never vote for him.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing, Jasper. Are you going to be able to win people over like Sophia?
Well, we've got exciting things to win people like Sophia over. We are currently, one of our policies is to cap prescription charges in line with inflation, give or take 2 or 3%. So that's the sort of policy that I think unifies a nation, that, you know, makes headlines and excites people.
Well, I'm rarely ill, so that doesn't really affect me at all. So I don't. I've already forgotten about that.
Jasper, is there anything else exciting that maybe you can?
Oh, to be honest, the list is so long it's hard to choose. We're going to halve crime against women. You're welcome, I suppose.
Right.
I think that's.
Well, that's great. How will you do that?
Yeah, precisely. We're not going to be soft on crime, which the Tories have been very, very soft. And Keir hard blanket Starmer is going to be hard on crime and halve it, specifically against women.
See, again, a hard blanket is not something I really want on me, which again is what you want for a blanket.
Do you know what? I think maybe I shouldn't have brought up blankets at all, in a way.
Well, it's now very much lodged in my head.
Right. Okay.
And I don't know how much I can move on. It's a bit like Captain Hindsight. Sometimes someone says something and it sticks, doesn't it?
That was so good. That was so good when they said, because do you know what? Do you know what it is about Keir Starmer? If it was up to him, we'd still be in lockdown.
Yes. Yeah, that's very true.
I don't think we would still be in lockdown, because
we would, and COVID's not real, and we'd still be in lockdown for no reason.
Well, okay,
COVID's a bit real.
No. It's as real as you want it to be, and I don't.
What about the tests? Don't the tests say whether it's real?
No, they don't, because Right Said Fred took one and it was just covered in hair.
Right, I don't tend to go to Right Said Fred for my medical advice. I would go to Keir Starmer, I suppose, or a doctor. Maybe a doctor.
Yeah.
I'd go to a doctor.
No, they're in the pocket of the Labour Party, who are very powerful, and look what they did.
Jasper, do you think that do you think she's got a point? Do you think the Labour Party are quite powerful now?
I think now we've got rid of Jeremy. Yes, I think we're no longer held back. Did
you see Jeremy as sort of the weight taking you down, keeping you down, stopping you from swimming to the top?
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, Jeremy he's not really someone you'd want to hang out with. I think that's a crucial part of it.
Yeah.
Keir probably owns a Volvo and holidays in the south of France, and he's probably quite a good skier. He's good to chat to about.
Okay, well, that's some quite heavy claims you're doing there, Jasper. Can we verify them that Keir likes going to the south of France?
No, I'm not saying he does. I'm saying he strikes me as someone who would, and that's the sort of person you want to have a glass of wine with. But if his stoned little brother wearing hemp and a protest sign around his neck, you don't want him coming to Nobu with you. And I think this is the sort of demographic that Keir is really appealing to, and that's why we're doing exciting things like the prescription thing.
Jasper, what I do want to ask though before, so you've sort of implied that the reason why Jeremy Corbyn is no longer welcome is because he's not popular with the voters and he's dragging the party down. But what about the issues with the charges of anti-Semitism? Of course, Keir Starmer, he made a big thing, said he was getting rid of all of that. Is this not just a sort of an extra nail on the coffin?
No, we didn't mention anti-Semitism at all in when we said we were getting rid of Jeremy, so I don't think it's relevant to the question, actually. I don't spend much time thinking about it, to be honest.
But what about the Ford report, which Starmer commissioned, which said there was a hierarchy of racism in the party? What about that?
I'm not sure that Ford report actually exists. I'm not sure why a car company would do an investigation into the Labour Party. I don't know to what you're referring, actually.
Do you know what my problem with bringing up anti-Semitism is? When you bring up that, people start bringing up other racisms, and let's face it, none of them are real.
Well,
right.
Well, no, they are real and they do exist.
They're as real as your little report.
Well, that does put me in a difficult position because I do believe the report is not real, but I do believe that racism is real. It's just nowhere to be found in our party. But that doesn't mean that it's not
real.
Right. Do you think anything's real?
Going out and I got into Durham.
Thank you. That was great. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Jasper.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. And remember to vote Labour, whether you're a Tory or anyone else.
Yes, no, that won't happen.
Right. Well, it probably should. Remember, we're halving crime against women and other exciting. Okay. Thank you for having me.
Okay. Bye-bye, Jasper. Now, I like to fly whenever possible. The only exception is journeys within the UK because those flights simply don't have an acceptable first-class section.
As a northern working class woman, I think it's important to fly instead of taking the train. Were you expecting me to say that?
Kind of, yes. It's pretty consistent with the sort of thing you say on social media. So
well,
I think
I'm sorry to not go along with the liberal groupthink, but I would rather travel out to Stansted, wait for 90 minutes, fly to Newcastle Airport and get a cab into town than waste 3 hours by getting on a train.
Well, this week Grant Shapps said he didn't feel guilty for flying, despite being the Secretary of State for Net Zero. And Eshaan Akbar joined us to offer his views on that. Hello, Eshaan Akbar. Great to have you on.
Hello, Harriet. It's lovely to be back.
Now, Eshaan, let's get straight to the point. I want to know what your hot and spicy takeaway of the week is.
Well, you may have seen that our Secretary of State for Energy and Net Zero, Grant Shapps, the Right Honourable, was doing an interview with the Laura Kunsberg of Sky News, Kay Burley. And in the interview, Kay Burley asked him if he thought that flying as a qualified pilot was acceptable given his role as Secretary of State for Energy and Net Zero. And Grant Shapps replied, well, yes, absolutely fine. And many people thought, well, that doesn't quite make sense. You can't be someone who's contributing to the problem that you yourself are trying to solve, you've been appointed to solve. So my hot and spicy takeaway is this. Every Secretary of State should be allowed to do the thing that makes delivering on their job harder. So if you're the Secretary of State for Energy and Net Zero, fly away. As Frank Sinatra would say, come fly with me. Because how can you change things if you don't experience it yourself? If you're the Home Secretary in charge of solving drugs crime, do drugs. Because unless you do the drugs, you're not going to know what's needed to fix the drug problem.
Eshaan, I'm not sure terribly about this logic. So you're saying that a minister should do bad things to overcome them?
But only the things that are relevant to their department. So if you're, the Home Secretary and your main concern is refugees, be a refugee. Because then when you're a refugee, then you'll know how to solve the problem. If you're the Secretary of State for Culture, Media and Sport, become an athlete. Do the running. The faster you run and train, then you understand what the issues are to try and solve them. It's like, these big companies do, be on the shop floor for a day.
Yes.
It's the same kind of logic. Just do the thing.
But I couldn't, and listen, I like Grant. I think he's doing some wonderful things, and I think he can fly a plane. But by your logic, wouldn't it be, if he wanted to overcome flying a plane and the damage it does, couldn't he just stop flying his plane?
No, but then if he stops flying his plane, then how will he know what the issues are? He has to fly a mile in their shoes.
Right. Right. I get what you're saying. I get what you're thinking. Sophia, what's your take on all of this?
Yeah, it's like if you're the health secretary, then why don't you just become the coronavirus? Oh, you can't, 'cause it's not real. So you can't, can you?
Well, that's an opinion.
No, that's the thing. That's the same thing. If you answer me that, why you're not doing that? If you love being the health secretary so much, why don't you become the coronavirus? But you can't.
Yeah, well, fair point, Sophia. Like Therese Coffey, she's the picture of not being healthy.
Yeah, exactly.
So actually, she's the perfect person to be health secretary. She has to experience being unhealthy and requiring hospital services to be able to make changes to them.
But Eshaan, if I was going to stop people taking drugs, for example,
take drugs.
And well, I don't know.
Take some MDMA.
Only on Sundays.
Oh, Harriet Langley-Swindon on MDMA becomes Harriet Langley-Swin out. Eh?
No, Eshaan, we'd promised we'd never talk about that night.
Sorry.
But going back to Grant Shapps,
You don't have a gag reflex. When you were necking those bottles, it was remarkable.
Sorry, can we move on to the subject inside, please? And Sophia doesn't want to hear about this. Sorry, Sophia.
Try and get on with things. If you're at university, you should be concentrating on your work, not doing drugs. Just concentrate on your work and also being on a TV channel and being on a reality show on Channel 4.
Quite. Now, Grant Shapps, do you think him on his little plane is sort of helping in a weird way then?
Yeah, absolutely.
What I want to know is, because I love going on the plane. It's the only way to travel. And also sometimes when you're going to somewhere, say like, Scotland or something, you don't want to get a long train up. You want to get the plane. It's much quicker and it's much nicer. Now, I'm just surely following by example and following Grant Shapps and doing what he does. Am I helping the environment?
I think you absolutely are. I think, look, I often fly from Southend to Heathrow because it's much quicker than this Elizabeth line. And, I've got places to be and things to do.
Yeah, completely.
If I was Secretary of State for Energy and Net Zero, me doing that journey helps me make sure that journey becomes more energy efficient the more I do it.
Yes.
Because I learn and I can find ways to make them more energy efficient.
Yeah.
Like, you could save more energy if you had fewer oxygen masks on the planes, for example, because oxygen, that's a form of energy. And actually, not everyone needs an oxygen mask on planes. That would make it energy efficient. That's just something that I've observed flying from Southend to Heathrow. And I'm not the Secretary of State for Net Zero. So imagine Grant Shapps, one of the brightest political talents this country's ever seen, what he'd be thinking when he's flying his plane.
I mean, it's a very compelling argument. Don't you think so, Sophia?
I don't mind how I travel as long as I don't have to sit next to anyone who isn't white or straight.
And, you can fly right next to Grant Shapps, the straightest, whitest man there is.
I wouldn't mind. I don't think I'd mind that, as long as you didn't make me wear a mask.
Even if you were crashing and the oxygen mask came down, would you?
No, that is what I meant. That's what I meant. Don't make me. Don't make me do that. I don't need to be told how to breathe.
Yeah, that's big pharma.
So I went to Durham. And that is a really hard university to get into. Only people who can't get into Cambridge and Oxford go there.
Did you fly to Durham?
No, I lived near there.
That's very good.
I just got a place in Durham. Bet you didn't expect that.
I didn't expect that. You're full of surprises, Sophia. I have to say, you're a very interesting person.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm such a valued broadcaster.
Yeah, I wondered if you might want to, grab a drink one day and just and talk about your time at Durham, and I can tell you about my time at Warwick. the other university that people go to if they can't get into Oxbridge.
Actually, Eshaan, I went for a drink with Sophia before the recording. It's actually quite hard work.
Well, maybe she doesn't like women, and it's just easy if she's
I don't, but at least I know what one is.
Yes, I'd like to find out more about what you think about women, Sophia, if you're up for a...
Yeah, all right.
No,
but I'll tell you what, I know what one is.
And I'm going to be honest with you both. I've sort of lost the plot on what this whole hot and spicy takeaway is.
Well, it's very simple. If you are the Secretary of State, do the thing that makes your job harder, because that's the only way you'll make it better.
We all need to overcome our own personal struggles. Well, okay, I think to finish off, really, I think we should talk about what we do to overcome our own personal struggles. Eshaan, what would that be for you?
Well, because I am an ethnic minority person, I live my life as a very ethnic minority person.
Yeah.
So that I can understand what it's like to be an ethnic minority person. And then I overcome it by denying everything to do with my own ethnicity.
That's wonderful.
So I white up, I only use cutlery,
secondary part.
And I let dogs lick my face.
That's great. Well, I commend you. Sophia, is there anything in your life that, in order to overcome, you are making worse, let's say?
If I want to just relax and that, you mean?
So, yes, of course, yeah.
Yeah. I just sort of scroll Stormfront and crack one out and then apologise to myself for doing that.
Sorry, what?
Just because it's bad to do that, to crack one out, but as long as you say you're sorry, it's all right. And then you can do it again the following week.
Right, okay. Thank you. That was our hot and spicy takeaway of the week. Eshaan, Sophia, thank you very much.
No problem. Sophia, call me. I'll send you my number.
Don't have a phone.
A letter?
Don't believe in
Can I send you a
phones.
letter? Can I send you a letter?
Stick a post-it on a tree in Durham.
Okay, I'll stick a post-it on a tree in Durham.
I walk around there at night. Okay.
Is there a park you like?
Yeah, don't mind really at night.
Okay, I'll fly there. I'll fly there tomorrow.
Okay.
Now, housing is the most important issue facing the UK at the moment, and no one knows that better than landlords, the most persecuted minority in Britain. Honestly, it almost makes you want there to be an effective anti-discrimination legislation, doesn't it, Sophia?
No, it does not. Look, I'm a northern working class woman trying to make it in the media, and so currently I'm living in a shared room in a shared house. But that's not the landlord's fault. He has to charge the rents he does, otherwise how would he earn a living, let alone afford to run that sports car or pay the rent on his holiday home?
Absolutely. Anyway, we found a property magnate, David Ackackack, to give us an impartial view of the housing market. Let's take a listen. David, great to speak to you. Now, if you could just explain to our listeners who you are. You are, of course, a landlord, so you're very invested in this topic we're going to talk about today.
Absolutely. I'm a landlord and I am the lord of the land that I own, and that is something that the government is very kindly agreeing to recognise now with this new, improved rights for landlords. You know what? We're not asking a lot. We get a bad rep, us landlords, but we're really the backbone of this country. I mean, without somewhere to rent, what would people do? They'd be sleeping all over the place. They'd be out in the street, up a tree. You'd have caves full everywhere around.
And then
pits,
there's little holes in the grounds where badgers live.
Exactly. Warrens, I think, or sets with badgers, isn't it?
Yeah.
A warren's more for it. But the point being, we finally are going to be able to protect ourselves in a way from antisocial behaviour. And I'm all for it personally. Although if I did have one complaint, I'd say it doesn't go far enough.
Do you think so? Do you think so? Because the landlords have the government are basically saying that landlords are to be given these new powers to evict problematic tenants with 2 weeks' notice. So you're saying that they could go further than this?
Well, absolutely. I mean, sure, if someone's playing loud noises all the time, I want to kick them out because I like to keep quiet houses. That's what I'm known for. People are like, nice quiet house, lovely. But I'd say if, what about if a child's, I think even if a child is thinking about taking up playing trombone, then that should be reason enough to kick them out.
Yes, that's so true. That is so true.
Don't wait until they're making the noise. Strike before, like, if say a child. I mean, it doesn't have to just be children. It could be it could be a pet that is thinking about making noise as well. Kick them out. That's what I say.
Well, David, the good thing about these new rules is they are saying that it's something that could cause antisocial behaviour. So if a child has a violin or a trombone, that to me means it could be cause to evict them, surely, under government guidelines.
Well, I can only hope so, Harriet. I can only hope so.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, we are, of course, and this is what a lot of people forget, Harriet, is we, as landlords, have gone through the trouble of buying a house, and not just one, sometimes it's lots of houses, so that these people don't have to. It's actually a very traumatic experience, putting that money into a building and then renting that building out. And then even once you got your money back, there's associated costs, isn't there?
David,
where do I put all my money? That's the thing that I've got on my mind that those people don't understand.
Yeah, which house to put them? You need these houses to protect your money, really. And with the added bonus of helping people. I mean, I'm also a landlord, David. Few little properties. And actually, I welcome these new rules. I mean, I've got some very irritating tenants always asking for things, and that to me is antisocial. And they're going to go.
Kick them out, Harriet. That's what I say.
Going to get them out.
If I think I've got a very simple approach that I would like to spread to all landlords. It's something that I'm going to try. Okay, which is to put out an open house, have people come and look at it, get people to move to sign up and pay a month's rent in advance, maybe even a year's rent in advance, because it's a very competitive market out there.
Yeah.
And then before they move in, kick them out. Kick them right out.
I like it. Yeah.
Just nip it in the bud, and then I could just have an empty house. Just a nice, quiet, empty house. Wouldn't that be lovely?
And David, of course, you are known for your very, very quiet houses.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I try.
Now, David, I'm going to bring in my producer at the moment, Sophia, because I think she can offer a different viewpoint, because you and I, we're landlords, we have to deal with that. But Sophia is a tenant. Aren't you, Sophia?
Yeah, I am. I share a room, actually, in a house. And I just want to say to you as landlords and to all landlords that I'm just a really, really, really big fan. I'm actually a bit starstruck. And I just think what you do is amazing. It's just incredible. Like, without you, where would I be living? People say, oh, that would mean that the housing market would be a lot more people could get on the property ladder. But what if I like sharing a room with a woman who works nights? I like it. And the good thing about how I live is I won't ever be in a position where I'm being thrown out for antisocial behaviour, because I don't have any pets or even friends.
That's great. You know what, Sophie? That you sound like the ideal kind of tenant. Can I just ask?
I am.
Do you do you ever eat noisy crisps? Anything that's maybe in a maybe a biscuit from a, because you could maybe just think about eating quite a little quieter food. That's just one tip from a landlord to a tenant.
Sometimes I've
to be honest, if you could just stop eating altogether, that, well, there is a crunch
It
associated
would help me
with the
afford the
Bourbon,
rent,
isn't
which
there?
has just gone up. Yeah, that would, yeah.
And you know what? Landlords are earning every penny.
I
Do you think they
agree.
want-
I
do you think they
agree.
want to
I hope it didn't come across that I didn't think that.
It's just,
But David, you talk about how Sophia sort of said that her rent's gone up. I mean, this is another thing that's been labelled at the poor old landlords, is that we're putting up rent by sort of, in some cases, 20%. And I mean, I think you'll agree with me. I think we as you say, we've earned every penny. We're doing what we can.
Oh, it's 20%. What's that? It's the tip, basically.
Yes.
You go to a restaurant, you leave a tip, don't you? And you're not even leaving the house to go to the restaurant. This is the restaurant you're eating breakfast, lunch, and
I
dinner.
agree.
And you're not,
I agree. It's
you're just paying basic 20%
yeah, like
tip standard.
if I was told like, oh, Sophia, you've got a really terrible illness, you've got a 20% chance of surviving, I'd be like, oh, that's a tiny chance of survival. So why?
That is
like,
so true.
That goes for rent increases too. That I'm happy to sacrifice anything to pay.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. I mean, that's the thing. People call it saying, oh, we can't afford the prices. Well, you can, otherwise you'd be homeless, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, and once again, we're back to this, this nightmare scenario of every, where would the squirrels live if people were living in the trees?
Yeah.
Landlords are literally the only thing stopping a plague of homeless squirrels.
Yeah.
That personally, that's not an England that I want to live in.
No, I wouldn't
that's
like
so true.
that.
I think that's the thing.
Because they come in all different colours and I don't like that.
And I mean, also, I am a friend to the animals, which, David, you clearly are.
Well,
and
absolutely.
Sophia, I mean, who knows what you think and cares. But I think that's the thing, isn't it? We're protecting all sorts of things. We're keeping this country going.
I just wanted to say, Harriet, if it's
yes,
all right,
David.
and I do passionately believe this, that landlords like yourself and me and Sophie's landlords, whoever they may be, they really
I
are.
hope I get to meet them one day. They never come round.
They're like we like the RSPB. Who else is looking after the creatures of this great land?
The RSPCA.
Oh, well, yeah, all the birds, the bird one too.
Yeah. Well, David, it's been a delight having you on. Good luck with your tenants. I hope they all shut up.
Thank you very much. I hope so too. Otherwise, I'll be kicking them right out.
Yes. They'll be homeless soon. Okay, goodbye.
Yes.
Well, that's it for this week. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, and keep those questions coming to noncensoredpodcast@gmail.com. Did you enjoy taking part, Sophia?
Well, as a northern working class woman, I did, thank you. Do I get my own show now then?
Well, it takes a little more than doing a week's work experience as a producer before we give you your own show.
Right, so I'll be back next week then.
I'm afraid Martin's back next week, but good luck all the same. Thank you to Rosie Holt, Suze Kempner, Eshaan Akbar, Will Seabag Montefiore, Brendan Murphy and Ed Morrish. I'm Harriet Langley-Swindon and we'll be back next week for some more Non-Censored.